In this video, I will go over everything Ranger related for a guide. We'll try to cover perks, skills, gear, budgeting, and overall how to play Ranger. So redo of a video I made a couple years ago. That was a huge Ranger guide, but it's since become outdated, so I'm remaking it. There'll be timestamps in the description for every single part of the video, so if you want to skip through, feel free. First thing here is I'm going to go over every Ranger perk and what they do. So first we have Nimble Hands. When using a bow, it increases your draw speed by 15%. So it pretty much makes your bow shoot 15% faster. A way you can see this is if you look at the way a Ranger holds a bow with the perk on and without, it looks different. So if you look at like a fighter holding a longbow, it's going to hold it much more vertically, but if you have Nimble Hands on Ranger, it holds it differently. Doesn't matter too much, but it just shows that you have it on. But this is a very good perk. Then Quick Reload. When you reload a bow, you gain 50% action speed. And what that does is action speed affects your reload speed. So when you're reloading a bow, it happens 50% faster. Next is our new perk. This used to be a skill, but now it's a perk that is always active. Each time you hit a target with a ranged weapon, so this includes crossbows, you will remove one random magical buff, and when you remove a buff, it will deal 3 true magical damage. But what a magical buff is, it's typically like a spell buff, so Bard buffs all count, Wizard Haste, Invis, and Ignite count, Druid heals count, so like the overtime heals. Those are the main ones. There's still more, so like Cleric spells, but pretty much it doesn't affect, I don't think, any perk and like actual skill in the game, so it wouldn't affect Quickfire, wouldn't affect any of these. Next up we have Chase. This perk will make enemies have footsteps on their path, and these last for about 10 to 15 seconds. So on the floor you can see footsteps that will guide you in the way someone else went. And then it also will increase how far away you can hear someone from and their footstep sounds, so you'll be able to hear someone from farther away than normal. Overall, it's a pretty good information perk. Next is Campfire Mastery. This perk also got changed recently, and it lets you instantly place a campfire. And this animation, it's about 1 second, is what it means by instantly place. So you can place a campfire in 1 second, and it will have double the duration. Next is Crippling Shot. So when you shoot someone in the legs, it will reduce their move speed bonus, so their move speed, by 40% for 1 second. And this is no cooldown, so every time you hit someone in the legs, this will happen. Next up is Crossbow Mastery. When you're using a crossbow, you will gain 5% physical damage bonus. So this is your main damage. And a 50 action speed while you're reloading. So similar to Quick Reload, your action speed affects your reload speed, so you reload crossbows 50% faster. Next is Kinesthesia. When you're moving with a bow drawn, you will gain 15% move speed bonus. So typically when you have your bow out and you have it drawn, you're down about 150 move speed. With this perk, you'll only be down about like 130 move speed, so you'll be moving slightly faster with your bow drawn. Next is Ranged Weapon Mastery. When using any ranged weapon, so bow, crossbow, hand cannon, you will gain 5% physical damage bonus, which is, again, is your main damage. Then you have Sharpshooter. So this is when you're using a ranged weapon, so a crossbow, bow, hand cannon. When you hit someone in the head, it will do 15% more damage. So there's now a stat for this. It's called Headshot Damage Bonus. So this pretty much gives you 15% headshot damage bonus. Next up is Spear. This lets you just equip a spear. It's pretty simple. You can't use a spear base ranger, but if you put this perk on, then you're able to. And lastly, our newly changed perk is Trap Mastery. It lets you instantly place a trap, and by instant, similar to Campfire Mastery, it's a 1 second place time. So you can place a trap in 1 second, and then you can recover the trap and pick it back up later. So next up here, I'm going to talk about every skill for Ranger and what they do. So first here's Quickfire. You gain 50% action speed for 8 seconds when using a bow type weapon when it's popped. So action speed affects how fast you shoot your bow, so you'll shoot it 50% faster. And then it also affects your reload speed, so you will reload 50% faster if it's active. Quick Shot, it will make you fire multiple arrows in a row. So when using a longbow, you will fire 2 arrows back to back. when using a recurve bow, you will fire 3 arrows back to back in quick succession, and then when using a survival bow, it is 4 arrows back to back in a quick succession. This is backstep. This will make you jump back a short distance. Can be used in the air, can be used while attacking, and it has 1 charge. Next up is Field Ration. You have 2 charges of these that you can get back with a campfire, and it lets you eat one and gain 40 HP. So it has a 30-second cooldown, so you can eat one, wait 30 seconds, do another one, but then you have to sit at a campfire to get it back. Next is Forceful Shot. When using a bow, you are able to knock a target back when you hit them. There's Multi-Shot. So what happened is you'll put 5 arrows into your bow at once that all shoot out in a cone shape, like shown in the picture. Penetrating Shot. It gives you 50 headshot penetration and 25% armor penetration for 8 seconds. And what headshot penetration is, so on every hat in the game, you see this one, there's a certain amount of headshot damage reduction. As you can see on this cap, it's 5%. So what penetrating shot does is it would make that 5% headshot reduction go down to 2.5%. So with heavier caps like helmets, like a hound skull, it will make you do a lot more damage to the head. Then it also gives 25% armor penetration. And what armor penetration does is the amount you have is the percent of armor rating you will ignore on the person you're shooting. So against people with more armor rating, like a fighter in plate armor, this will give you a lot more damage. Then last, we have True Shot. This makes your projectile fly faster and not lose any velocity, or not lose any height, so it will always fly in a straight line. And it also gives you 8% more physical damage bonus for 8 seconds. When going over skills, perks, gear, and weapons for Ranger, I have them sorted into a tier list to make it easier to see what's best. Then I have the tier list different for each mode. So here I'm starting for perks tier list for solos. You can see Nimble Hands is at the top. This is the best bow perk in the game, and there's no reason to not run it unless you're using a crossbow build. Pretty much gives you 15% more action speed at all times. Next I have Quick Reload, which makes your reload 50% faster. Which some rangers don't like to take it, but I think it's just insanely good, and you really shouldn't not take it. It makes your downtime so much less. Then Crossbow Mastery. This is just the best perk for a crossbow build. Makes you reload 50% faster and do more damage. Crossbow build isn't as good in solos, but I still have this in S tier. Then Chase, just a very good perk overall. Lets you see footsteps of recent players and hear people from further away. Some people say it's like a rogue counter. It isn't really. It does help with rogues sometimes, but it won't save you from them every time. But overall, it's still a good perk. Then the Sharpshooter, you get 15% more headshot damage bonus when you hit someone in the head with a bow or a crossbow. Just overall good damage if you get a headshot. Trap Mastery was recently buffed, so now it instantly places a trap. By instantly, it means it takes 1 second to place a trap, and you are able to pick them back up after. It's made the perk much more versatile for solos, lets you quickly place a trap, and helps for kiting out people. I don't personally run it, just because it's kind of lame, but it's still a good perk. Then Spear perk used to be higher up, but it's gotten nerfed a ton, and same thing with Backstep has also been nerfed. So I honestly don't find Spear that good anymore. Using a perk slot to just use Spear doesn't seem worth it. Ranged Weapons Mastery, another just decent perk. You get 5% physical damage bonus when using a bow or a crossbow. Just a decent perk. Kinesthesia makes you move 15% faster when your bow is drawn. It's a decent kiting perk. It's hard to fit in, but it's usable. Then Crippling Shot, when you shoot someone in the leg, it makes the move speed extremely slow for a while, for 1 second. It can help for kiting and solos. Then Purge Shot was also newly reworked, and each time you hit someone, you remove a magical buff and then deal 3 true mag damage when you remove a buff. However, magical buffs are only really bard buffs, like wizard spell buffs like haste and invis, and druid buffs, so there's not many. And the only class you're really going to be running into that you get value of Purge Shot in solos is Bard, and it's already a good matchup, so you don't need to use a perk for it. Then in solos, Campfire Mastery is reworked, but it's still never worth using in solos, so I have that in the bottom. So here I have a similar tier list, but the perks are for duos and trios. So at the top here we have the same perks, very good. And crossbow mastery is only needed if you're doing a crossbow build. Then chase, still very good perk. Sharpshooter, up there. And then different is campfire masteries, now good. It now lets you instantly place a campfire, so it takes like 1 second, and it makes its duration doubled. So this is really good if you're playing with a caster, like a wizard or a cleric, that need to sit to reset, since you can instantly campfire for them. And while it is similar to a clarity pot in terms of how much you get, it lasts longer, gives you HP, and you can also stack a clarity pot with the campfire, and you'll get your spells back super fast. So it's overall a support perk for duos and trios. Then Purge Shot has also moved up. You don't need to run it in duos and trios, but I think it's pretty good. Since Bud is a lot more common, Druid Healer is more common, and overall, if you're playing super good, Purge Shot will remove a Troll's Blood, which is a consumable people use when they're fighting a good team. Which is pretty dumb that it does it, but it takes a lot of value away from the team if it instantly gets rid of it. Both these perks are in the same tier as before. Trap Mastery went down a tier since I think it's still good in duos and trios, but it's just harder to make use of. You have to worry about your teammates, and you don't really need traps. Then both these kiting perks are also lower down. I just don't think they're as good in duos and trios. And yeah, overall the list is pretty similar, but there's a couple of things that switched up. Next up, I have skill tier list for solos. So the top here, we have Backstep, which it's got nerfed a lot, but I still think it's good for solos, just because you need to be able to kite, and this helps a lot. Then I have Quickfire and Quickshot. They're just the two best DPS perks for Ranger. So I almost always have one of these two perks on my build. And next here, we have Forceful Shot and Multi-Shot. Forceful Shot's combo is really good of Recurve and Survival Bow, which are two of the best solos bows, which you will see later. And it lets you knock someone back when you hit them. It does not end up working on barbs most of the time because they have the Iron Will perk, which makes them immune to knockback. However, it's still good for kiting like fighters and just getting away overall. Then I have Multi-Shot, and you can use this in a couple ways. You can use it as a quick reload, so you can pop it and then cancel it, and you'll get 5 arrows in your clip. But the main thing is, I think it's good for in solos, is you can use it to instantly break a door, and one of the arrows will actually go through the door. So if someone's sitting on the other side of a door, you can multi-shot it and actually hit them with one arrow. So for that reason, I have it pretty high up, since a door game is pretty much your weakness in solos as Ranger. Then you can also use multi-shot as a close range shotgun, like a desperation move. So if someone's like on top of you and you're gonna die, you can try to multi-shot them and kill them. It's kind of a gamble, but it will one-shot someone if it hits. Decent skills. So Field Ration here got buffed. That gives 40 HP and can get back from a campfire. But I still don't think it's that worth it. I've tried to make use of it. It just doesn't help too much. Most of the time, if you're in the open and you're using a Field Ration, you might get killed anyway. So say it's like a wizard or a ranger looking at you. And if you use it behind cover, you might as well have used like a green or blue bandage if you have those, which gives a similar amount. You can still use it. It's still definitely pretty good. I just haven't gotten a ton of value out of it. I also have Penetrating Shot in this tier for solos. It's not a bad skill at all, but I think it's just hard to fit in solos, since it does help against players like fighters and high PDI players. But it's hard to take something other than like Backstep or Quickfire or Quickshot, any of those three. Then lastly here I have True Shot low. True Shot just is worse than all the other skills mentioned. The one thing though is it's good for the crossbow build, which I didn't really take into account when placing it here, but both Pen Shot and True Shot are your two main DPS perks or skills for the crossbow build. So when it comes to that, they're higher up, but for like bow and stuff overall, they're not that good. So here, the tier list is a bit different. You still have Quickfire and Quickshot in the top tier. They're both just super good DPS. Quickfire is probably the highest DPS skill, because say you hit every single shot, you're shooting 50% faster for 8 seconds. And Quickshot's only like 2 arrows on longbow and 3 arrows on recurve, but it's still very good. I have Backstep down here. It's still good. I just don't use it very often. If you look at my videos, I almost never use Backstep. I think it's still a fine perk, but my main issue is it doesn't really save you sometimes, because I find the only times I'm really dying when to melee is if I am getting like Barb Achilles or Sprint Franny spammed. So they just throwing a ton of Francisca axes at you. And Backstep doesn't really save you from that. They're still going to catch you. So it's kind of like you have a door and you can get away or else you die to that. I just haven't found too much value. It is really good against wizard and like spellcasters because you can backstep a spell like to the side and get a shot off. So it's definitely still a very good skill. I just prefer using others. Then penetrating shots better in duos and trios. I still don't think it's crazy because in duos and trios, typically the clash you're partnered with will counter your weakness to PDI, so you don't need to worry about this. But it is still helpful, and you can do a lot more damage to fighters and high PDR barbs. And almost every other skill is just decent. Field ration, same as in solos, same reasons. Multi-shots, not as good in duos and trios because the doors aren't as much of a counter. And you don't really ever want to try to shotgun someone unless you really need to, because otherwise it's just a gamble. And forceful shot's a bit worse. You don't need it for kiting. And true shot's a bit better, just because crossbow build's better, and I really like true shot for the crossbow build. But yeah, that's the skills for duos and trios. Okay, next we have my weapons tier list for solos. So in the top I have short sword. This is emerged to be the best ranger melee weapon easily. It is super high DPS, it's really easy to hit headshots, and it's low move speed penalty. So it's pretty much just like better than arming sword and rapier in my opinion, no matter what. Then recurve I think is the best bow for solos. It is better for kiting than longbow while still having good damage. The next tier I have survival bow, which is also good in solos. It just has super low move speed penalty and high attack speed for kiting. Arming sword's a decent melee weapon. I think short sword's better. Both crossbows if you're doing crossbow build or just using a windlass in your offhand. Spear, it's still good. I haven't taken it much recently because using a perk on it isn't great in my opinion, but it still combos good at backstep. And longbow's still fine in solos. I think recurve's just better, but I have used longbow a lot in solos, and it still, you can definitely use it. Then rapier is just okay. Hand cannon, hand crossbow, just wouldn't recommend using. Then of course Pavis isn't really a weapon, so no reason to use it. Okay, here I have my weapons tier list for duos and trios. It's pretty similar, but I have longbow, short sword in the top, so longbow over recurve. Longbow is just so much better in duos and trios. Its damage is just way higher. Crossbow here too. Crossbow build's very definitely good in duos and trios. So crossbow's up there. And then arming sword, recurve, windlass. This tier. Windlass is good as to have in your offhand, so you can get a quick high damage shot to finish someone off or start a fight. Recurve still good. It's just outclassed by longbow. Arming sword still good, just outclassed by short sword. Then down here I have survival bow and rapier. Survival bow is just really not good in duos and trios, at least especially trios. And then spear, I have it even further down here because I just don't think the single backstep spear is as good in duos and trios. You're just not getting value off it as much. And then similar at the bottom, hand cannon, hand crossbow, not great. And then Pavis is not actual weapon. Okay, this next one's a pretty big tier list. There's a lot to go over. And it's pretty much all the gear ranger can use. I might have missed one or two. And I don't have any craftable gear in here because it's just too much to worry about. And most of it's the same as normal gear, just like if one difference. But most of the gear down below is just like caster gear or bad stats. So this is like add your resourcefulness. This is knowledge, so you don't want to use any of that. But we'll start at the top tier. For hats, I have 4 stood at the top. It's just, the main reason I have it best is because it gives 15 magic resist along with strength and like armor rating. And that magic resist comes in clutch because wizard is really good right now. And in general, just having more MDR against a caster is nice. Best chest piece is Wanderer attire. It just has a hybrid of dex strength, which are your 2 best stats. And if you didn't know, when a chest piece is split between 2 stats, so like a blue Wanderer attire would give, I believe, 3 dex, 2 strength, compared to a blue doublet that only gives 4 dex. So you're getting 1 more total stat with a Wanderer attire. And cloaks, just strength and dex cloak, both very good. Cloth pants, they just give dex one of your best stats. Then riveted gloves give strength. Elkwoods are Vig dex hybrid. So they're 2 good stats you use. I don't use them as much, but I still think they're a really good pair of gloves. Then turn shoes is easily the best ranger boot. It gives dex agi as a hybrid stat, and also has 7 base move speed. So I would rather use these over Lightfoots for move speed because you're getting Dex and Agi. Same with Adventure Boots, they have more move speed. And then you just have a couple other good hats. These are the two new headshot damage bonus hats. I think they're pretty good. Then Spangenhelm gives nice PDI and action speed. Grand Brigandine I have up here, I've started using it a ton. It's not that high move speed penalty anymore, and it's good for PDI. So I've been making a lot of PDI Ranger builds with this. Gives Agi Dex and high armor rating. Double it, just gives Dex, pretty simple. Both these cloaks, they're good. They're not as good as these two, but you can run them. I have Dark Leathers up here. They just give more MDI, which I think is really important right now. And they're only like 2 more move speed penalty than cloth pants, so they don't matter too much. Like the move speed doesn't matter too much, and you're gaining PDI and MDI. And then the new strength pants, these give strength, but they have 1 more move speed penalty than cloth pants, so I don't have them in the top. And then loose trousers are good for move speed. Padded pants just are good for HP. Then Runestone gloves, same as Dark Leathers, give good MDI and don't really lose many stats. I've been using these a ton. These new gloves, they give strength, headshot damage bonus. The Onyx gloves, they're good. Heavy boots, they give strength and really high armor rating. There's also the Pagachi, which is strength agi. They're good still for move speed, but I think if you're going a full move speed, you want turn shoes instead. So in my opinion, I either run turn shoes or I run heavy boots. But these are still really good. The adventure boots give dex. Lightfoot's a high move speed. So these are all the main good pieces. You want to have your build mostly these, with maybe 1 or 2 of these lower down pieces. It's like the ranger hood is usable. This new dex health chest piece here. The rustic tunic isn't too bad. Padded tunic you can fit in. All these aren't horrible, but for the most part you want your build to be mostly made out of these top tier pieces. So the last thing I got here is a jewelry tier list. In the top we have Frost Amulet, Dex and Strength Ring, and then a Grim Smile, which is 2 Strength, 2 Vig. All these are very good. These are the main pieces of jewelry you want on your kit. Next is Agi Ring and Vitality Ring. They're both decent. If they have good stats, you can use them. Or if you want high move speed in solos, you can use the Agi Ring. But I try to not use these in my kits. Then for pendants, you have Ox Pendant and Monkey Pendant. They're not as good as Frost Amulet damage wise, but Ox Pendant can get kind of close. So you have like a unique Ox Pendant versus a purple Frost Amulet, they're pretty similar, and you get more rolls on the Ox Pendant, so it's worth it. Monkey Pendant I don't use often, but it still can be better. Like if you have a good purple Monkey Pendant compared to like a blue Frost Amulet, the Monkey Pendant's probably better. But overall, Frost Amulet's just better. And at the bottom here, we just have Caster Rings, Resourcefulness Rings. In the middle, it's like Neck Piece, and HP Pendant, and Torcus Soul. These just aren't great. You can use them on some like interesting builds, like if you're setting up some weird build. But other than that, they're not that good. Okay, next thing is a bit difficult to explain, but I'll try my best. Most stats in this game have a form of soft cap, so once you go above a certain amount of the stat, there's diminishing returns. So there's not too many to worry about for Ranger, but the main one is your Fizz Power. So if you didn't know, 1 Strength gives 1 Fizz Power, always. And then your Fizz Power normally gives a 1% physical damage bonus per Fizz Power. However, if you get the 50 Fizz Power total, you get diminishing returns, and it starts to only give 0.5% damage bonus. So you want to try to stay under 50 physical power, otherwise you're going to start getting diminishing returns. However, this doesn't affect physical damage bonus, so you don't need to worry about stacking too much physical damage bonus. So that roll you can put on any item, and it won't ever get soft capped. This goes for pretty much any percent. So like if you're putting percent action speed on the item, it won't ever get soft capped, and stuff like that. Next is a more difficult one, the action speed soft cap. So there's a couple of these, and for the most part you don't need to worry about them too much, but the main point is the more action speed you have, and with the more agi and dex you have, the less action speed you're going to get. This curve was recently changed to give more on the lower end and give less higher up, so I have a screenshot of what the new stats are. But the first thing you need to know is action speed is a joint stat between agility and dexterity, so both of them give action speed, but agility only gives 0.25%, or no, 0.25 of your total action speed, while dexterity gives 0.75 of your total action speed. So for each of these values, how much it says each, so here it says 1% each, 1 dex would only give 75% each, so you got to keep that in mind. So from 15 to 33, and this isn't like 15 to 33 dex, it is a total of 15 to 33 dex and action speed. So say you have 33 dex and 33 agi, that would be what your 33 would be. It's kind of hard to explain, but hopefully that helped. So from 15 to 33, you're getting 1.25% each, up to 22. So from each dex, you're gaining around like 0.9% action speed, and each agi, you're gaining like 0.3% action speed. And then above that, so it'd be above 22.5% action speed, it's lower, and you're only getting 1% each point. So for dexterity, that is 0.75% action speed, and for agility, that is 0.25. So this is the main one you probably want to stay below. Use when you, it's because it's really hard to, because once you go above 34% action speed, you're getting much less. So mainly, probably stay below 34 action speed total, but it isn't the end of the world. I just figured I'd show this. I might have did a bad job explaining it, but you can leave questions in the comments if you have any. So here's the perks I normally run for duos and trios. I have Nimble Hands, Quick Reload, both my auto-include perks. Then I have Purge Shot. It isn't crazy, but I like it. I take it over Sharpshooter normally, so I would run one of these two. Then my last is either Chase or Campfire Mastery if I'm playing for caster. I like Chase, it just gives info. Helps a lot. Then I run Quickfire and Quick Shot. They super high DPS, and I have a hard time, I don't like using anything else most of the time. If it were solos, I'd take off Third Shot for this, and then I'd do these 4 perks. And I would either keep this and have higher move speed, or I'd run Backstep. And lastly, if I was running Crossbow Ranger, you would run Crossbow Perk, Ranged Weapons Mastery, Sharpshooter, and then your last perk can be Chase, Purge Shot, Spear, and then I've been running True Shot, Pen Shot, but you can also do Backstep, True Shot, Backstep, Pen Shot, or even like Field Rations. You can use any combo of these. If I Backstep, I normally do Backstep, True Shot, but recently I've been doing Penetrating Shot and True Shot. So I have a few kits here to take a look at, but I'm going to start by explaining how I build my kits. The first thing I always aim for, especially if longbow, is 20 to 25 action speed at least. Otherwise, using longbow does not feel good at all. Then next, you will get a hybrid between Fizz Power bonus and health, and Fizz Power bonus includes Fizz Power and Strength, so any of those free stats will give you more damage. And then you also want HP, which you can get from Vig flat HP on an item. So like here, that is free max, and then max health bonus on an item. See, this item has free max health bonus, and all those can give you HP. And then overall, you're still trying to stack True Fizz, which you can get on your rings, pendant, gloves, and then your cloak. So what True Fizz is, it's one flat damage that doesn't get affected by anything. So one True Fizz, it doesn't get affected by armor rating, it doesn't get affected by damage fall off, it doesn't get affected by limb multiplier, so it doesn't do more damage than a headshot, and it doesn't do less damage to a limb. And then for move speed, when I'm building kits for duos and trios, I aim for at least 3 or 5. Solos, I would probably aim for at least 315. Okay, here I have a kit for every rarity made to show off. First is a Squire kit I'd run. This is, I've been asked about this a couple times. Got longbow, short sword, then turn shoes. They are high move speed, good agi, good dex. Cloth pants for the dex, Wander attire for the dex, and then Forest Hood for the strength. There's just not really a better helm. Then I've riveted gloves. You could also definitely use, where are these at? Elkwood gloves, because if you want more dex, I just prefer the free strength. So for this kit, I'm 11 action speed, 5% phys power, 5 move speed, and 110 HP. As you can see, this kit, I'm stacking true fizz, cloth, or like dex stuff. So dex turn shoes, and then just longbow of add weapon, short sword of add weapon. And my rings, I have 1 all instead of 1 true fizz. You can go either, but since it's in greens, I think the 1 all is better. But of this kit, I'm 312 move speed, 120 HP, 17 action speed, so we're getting close to where I like to be, and 13% fizz power bonus. If you want, similar to the last kit, you could run the Elkwood gloves for more dex. Then next here we have a full blue kit, so got a add weapon, damage longbow, dex forest hood, dex fizz power, so this could be better, could have all adds on it. Short sword of add weapon, the HP and fizz power on this, good cloak. Then both these could also have 1 all over the 2 strength. These pants are free strength for the fizz power. Then you got dex and everything. As you can see, I'm 40 dex. I have 25 action speed, so this is like the minimum I like to be at. Pretty good move speed. My fizz power bonus is actually really high. My HP isn't super high, but for a kit like this, this is what I'd run. And here we have a full purple kit, other than the bow, which is legendary, but 1 add weapon, legendary longbow. Forest Hood, just free low rolls. Pendant has dex, action, speed, health. Got a blood sap blade here for add weapon. The Wander attire has a lot of HP. Cloak, some agi. Both the rings are just decent. They're pretty much just triple socketed. Pants are just decent. All these pieces are pretty mid, but this would be a decent full purple kit I would run. Got high HP. My action speed's 27%, which is pretty good. So this is a kit I'd run for duos and trios, because the move speed is only 3 or 6. However, if you wanted more move speed, I would run, sorry, let me find them. Pair of 10 shoes like this, you can see if my move speed goes up. But I like the higher damage for duos and trios. And then got good fizz power bonus. It's actually not a big difference between this kit and the blue one, just because this kit isn't super min-maxed. But the main thing is the HP is much higher. And next, I have a full legendary kit, which would be my arena kit. I build my kits a bit differently than other people, so I'm not sure if I'd recommend building it the exact same. But got a pretty good longbow. And this kit isn't like insane, because I didn't spend too much money on it. 2 Vague Forest Hood. 3 dex in this. See, I don't have all ats. Most of the stuff is 1 good roll, if the rest socketed. Good short sword. This has a lot of HP if the 2 Vig. Cloak, 1 strength, 1 fizz power. And this ring is 2 dex, 1 Vig, so it's very good, but it doesn't have all ats. This ring is just a blue ring, purple ring. They have all ats, 2 dex. These pants, as you can see, they're dark leathers, and they're free strength. And these are a bit more move speed penalty than the cloth pants, because cloth pants are free, but they give me 5% MDI and 8% PDI. And when I calculated, if I were to put the same pair of cloth pants on, I'm only gaining like 1.5 action speed, which isn't too much. Then runestone gloves, I like these a lot. And if I had normal riveteds on, I would be over the fizz power soft cap of 50. So I'm not losing much fizz power by having these, and I'm gaining 5% MDI. I got heavy boots, 2 dex, high move speed roll. And overall, I don't really care about move speed in arena. If you wanted to, again, you could run turn shoes. You would have better ones than these. But they would give you action speed and move speed. But I normally run a Grand Brigandine on my kit, so I'm losing move speed, but I'm gaining action speed, and I go up to 38 PDI. and I have this almost the same fizz power. And I found the PDI helps a lot more than the bit extra stats I'm getting. So I typically have a Grand Brigandine on. I have a full unique kit I built. I've ran this a couple of times. There'll be a video coming out on it soon. Has a nipple in. You can also use a unique longbow. This is a artifact which you can get off bosses at a rare chance. And what happens when you shoot someone, it knocks them back, and also it has 3 more weapon damage. My helmet, too vague, the rest socketed. My pendant, I actually found this in raid and socketed the rest. A 1-all legendary unique frost amulet would be more damage, but this isn't much worse and like 1-all unique frost amulets are like 20k. So short sword, dex, vig, add weapon. Then I have a Grand Brigandine because this is a PDI kit, and this one's kind of bad. It's low. I'm gonna reroll this HP actually. I need to. But HP, fizz power, action speed. The cloak, it's hard to get a good cloak too, so this is mostly socketed. These rings, these are the only things not unique, but they're 1-all at scrimmies. I could make these better. If I had like 1-all 2 decks, I would probably upgrade these. Again, dark leathers, these are very good. 3 strength, 4 max base, with the rest socketed. I have Elkwoods on this kit, 2 strength. As you can see, I didn't re-socket my ad fizz, the true fizz. That's because I have such high base damage of this, and ad fizz gets affected by headshot damage, so it's just doing more damage to the head here. So I like it. Turn shoes, these don't have much, but I just looked for a high move speed build roll because that's the biggest thing. You can see my stats. My HP is super high. My move speed is actually pretty good for having insane stats. My action speed's right around where I like it, so it's around 30. I think I'm going to try to get 1-all ats, 2 dex scrimmies instead, so my action speed will go up by like 3%. 40 PDI, very high. 17 MDR is not bad at all. And then my fizz power bonus, it's pretty similar to my arena kit. It's only like 6% under what it could be. So all the stats are pretty much maxed, and then has high PDI. And here we also have an example of a crossbow ranger build. For the most part, you can just run a normal ranger kit like I just shown and use double crossbow. But you can also do a kit and then specialize more in fizz power than action speed. The action speed still helps because it affects your reload and your melee weapon. But so with this kit, it's not super min-maxed, just some random stuff. It's mostly stacking strength. So it's very high fizz power bonus, and then its action speed, it's not great. But yeah, this is how I'd build a mid-crossbow ranger kit with more fizz power, but from here, since I'm almost fizz power capped, you just want more action speed. So like, if you're running super good gear, like I could just throw in double crossbow to my arena kit and it'd be the exact same. The last main ranger build I have here is a PDR ranger build. You saw an example of it in my arena kit and my unique kit, but this is a more tame version. Pretty much just building a bit less move speed with some PDI pieces like Grand Brigandine. So this current build, it is Spangen Helm and Grand Brigandine with these dark paddeds, because they're pretty low move speed penalty. I got them pretty cheap and they have high armor rating. So if you look at this, I'm 145 HP of 35 PDI, then I'm 30 action speed, 20 fizz power bonus, which isn't bad. And there's definitely variation to this kit. So a lot of the time I do, instead, I'll do forest hood and like heavy leathers or tangle threads, so something like that. It's more fizz power. You can also probably do wooden outfit. So wooden outfit is very high base armor rating. It used to be really good for PDR ranger, but now I think Grand Brigandine is just better because, I mean, but if you want a higher move speed kit, you can do something like this. Same PDR, or even like, yeah. So there's a lot of options. You can also do that at forest hood, and all of it's so. But for like a purple kit like this, normally 35 PDI min is what you would be around. And if you're running a really good kit, around 40 PDI is what you want to be at. But this is kind of my favorite build right now for Ranger. The issue is Wizard is currently super strong, and in general it's just weak to casters, because, well, not super weak to casters, but you have less fizz power, and your MDI never is great, so you kind of just die to Wizards half the time currently, but it's still my favorite build. Next up, I had some requests for how to budget some gear off market, or just what stats to buy in general. So the main stats you're looking for, first of all, is strength, dex, and vig. Those are the main three like base stats. And then you're also looking for fizz power bonus, true fizz, and then like action speed and move speed. But I'm going to talk about budgeting mainly, so if you want some more budget pieces. So typically the best pieces to use for budgeting is if you look at the gear tier list I had previously. If you take some of the lower down pieces on that like typically aren't as good, but you can get some cheap budget rolls. So, say here, I look at Ranger Hood, which is high move speed, and I can, Legendary might still be super expensive because of Arena, but if you look at Epic, say 2 strength, 2 dex, that's hard to get. It's only about 500, and compared to like, that on like anything else, it's typically more. So that's a good option. In general, heavy boots are actually just pretty budget. So something like this, that do pretty cheap. The main issue is you want a high move speed roll on them. Otherwise you're very slow. But those are pretty good for cheap. I think leather gloves are also a pretty good option. So if you look at leather gloves, if strength, see, those are dirt cheap. Same thing, Elkwoods, they're good, but I think they end up being pretty cheap because just only 2 classes can use them. So let's look, like even Legendary with 2 strength are only 400. So that's a good option. Now, pants, there's not many great budget options. Honestly, probably the closest thing here to get to budget is dark leathers. So look at free strength dark leathers. And reason I'm getting strength on so much of the stuff is because it's dex base. So you see, this is dex base, so I'm looking for strength. And if heavy boots, they're strength base, so I'm looking for dex. But look, these are only 200. So if you don't mind your move speed as much, then you can get some budget dark leathers. The other option I've been liking a lot is padded leggings, but they're not very cheap. So like if I look at dex padded leggings, they end up being pretty expensive. It's not too bad, but if you look instead at like dark leather leggings or dark padded hose, the new piece, they end up being a lot cheaper. So free dex is only 160. And typically what I do is I buy one good roll in an item, and then I'll roll the other 2. So on this I would roll health bonus, then either action speed or fizz power bonus. His pants, cloak, there's not really a good budget option. Kinda just gotta do whatever. I guess your closest thing is probably an Agi cloak. Let's look at like purple with 2 strength. So that's not too bad. Boots, I mentioned heavy boots. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. We'll look at Pigachi, see how cheap they are, because I'm not sure how much these are used. Okay, yeah, these are pretty expensive, which is what I expected. Probably the last potential budget boot are lace turn shoes, because they're kind of just being passed up now because normal turn shoes are better. But yeah, you can get pretty good versions of these. They're just hard of boots because you need a high move speed roll for the boots to really be good. So like 3 or 4 or 5 additional move speed or move speed bonus. Now chest piece, even just using a doublet, doublets don't go for much because Wander Retire is so much better. So if you look at a free strength doublet, it is only 200 gold. It's not too bad. Same reason Brigadine is actually pretty cheap, because I mean mostly bards are using it. Actually, never mind, it's not very cheap. I take that back. Another thing you can look for is if there's no cheap strength roll, you can look for a 2 fizz power roll. It's not as good as free strength, but it's still pretty cheap. So there's a lot of chest piece options. A lot of just less good ones. So there's padded tunic also, which they can get. Druids use these, so they're a bit more expensive. But see, you have 3 decks for only 400 gold, and this is already socketed. Overall, that's not a bad option. Same thing, wooden outfit is extremely cheap, but it's just hard to fit in on any kit because its base isn't that good. But if you want move speed, see, like that's legendary. Epic, if you look at deck strength, you're getting them super cheap. So, see if there's anything left. I think that's about every item. So if you're budgeting, you can kind of just look at items either not as many classes can use, like the Elkwood gloves, or that are lower down on the tier list I put. So like the stuff in the middle tier, you can definitely get cheap budget items. I think the last thing here is like dark leaf boots. Should be dirt cheap because they're kind of just worse, or they're heavy boots, but they have less strength and 1 more move speed. So if you look at these have like 2 decks. Actually not as cheap as I expected, but like see these, you could sock at move speed, only 300 gold. But yeah, I think that's the everything covered for budgeting. Then for weapons, I think as long as it's just a purple weapon, they're not that expensive. So like a 2-add add weapon, purple longbow. Not too much. 2-add weapon is a bit more, but that's only 400 gold. Then Bloodsap Blade is my go-to for short sword. They are only 100 gold, and then Fad Weapon, they're a bit more, but you can always socket that. This next thing kind of goes along with budgeting. I got asked some tips for, so Ranger's typically not very good in low gear, which is true. So I got asked the best thing to do, or like how to play differently when you're in low gear. So the main thing I would say is just to look at what matchup you're taking, because you always have the option to just run away. So your best matchups typically in low gear are probably Bard, because Bard has no move speed ability and you can kite him out pretty easily. Some casters, depending on how geared they are, aren't too bad. Like if it's a Wiz who isn't that geared, you can definitely fight him. But if the Wiz is geared, he'll kind of 2-tap you. But probably the best thing I would say if you're playing without gear and Ranger is to just run away a lot and look for good situations. So look for third parties, look for a good like matchup. Maybe you're like kiting someone out and you're on bridge. So Barb's trying to chase you across bridge on runes. Then that's a good place to take the fight. Or if you see a Bard isolated, you can kite him out. And then in general, just playing around doors so you can run away easily. Doors are kind of a major weakness of Ranger, but also help a lot. So like if you're running away from someone, you can close them out of the door. But the only other issue is they can also just close you out and heal if you get them low. So overall, Ranger has a lot of strengths and weaknesses. Main strengths, I would say, is, consistent long range damage. That's the main one. You're just able to consistently hit people for good damage from farther away. You can avoid going close range and having to worry about any risky melee combat and can just keep kiting. You can kite away from people pretty easily. Able to run away, close doors, and just keep running away if you need to. However, there's also a lot of cons. You're very bad into door and pillar PvP. So a player can just spam close a door when you're trying to finish them off and heal up. And your only option would be to run through the door into close range and hope you can kill them in time. Which just doesn't work most of the time. And it's the same thing with pillars. They can kite around a pillar and just keep circling around the pillar while they heal up. And it's really hard to get a shot off on them. Since your arrows aren't hit scan and, well, thank God, but when someone's quickly jiggling a corner or going around a pillar, unless you get a lucky like pre-fire on them where you just shoot before they peek and hope they peek into it, then you're not going to be able to hit them. Then you also have low base MDR, like a lot of classes like Rogue and Bard. So you take a ton of damage from wizards, and currently, it's pretty hard to kill a wizard before they get away if you play far from them outside of the spell range, since they can easily run out of the fight, go behind cover and heal. So you kind of have to play closer, but if you're playing closer to a wizard, you sometimes just get 2 to 3 tapped by any of their spells. So part of it is your MDR, and part of it is Wiz is also pretty strong right now, but that might change. Then lastly, you can have a rough time versus like PDR and shields. There's ways around this though, like you can shoot under their legs of the shield and get away pretty easily. However, overall shields are pretty big counter the ranger. Same thing with high PDI. Next, I'm going to go over tips for fighting every class in the game. The first one I'm starting with is Barb. You want to make sure you have a doorway to escape with, since the main thing with fighting a Barb is they have Achilles Franny axes. They're able to throw them at range, and if they hit one with Achilles strike on you, you will get rooted for 2 seconds. If they also get one hit on you, when they close the gap, you also get Achilles and won't be able to escape. The main way is to stay far from them and try to dodge the Achilles Francesca axe. So you want to have a doorway at the ready in case you get hit. That way, if they close gap on you, you can close them out of the doorway and keep running. But as long as you can avoid Achilles strike, Barbs a lot of the time are pretty squishy. Since they're not trying to run you down with a shield out most of the time, and they only have a round shield, you can normally get good damage. Just make sure you're not focusing too much on the headshots, because they're pretty easy to strafe out, and just try to get body shots and get damage. You can also play to finish them off in a doorway, if they have a heavier weapon, like say a war maul, since it's hard for them to hit you in a doorway, and you can hit them with short sword. Next up is Fighter. Fighter is a harder time closing distance compared to Barb, however they also have much higher PDI and have a heater shield. So the main issue of Fighter isn't actually getting caught, but it's trying to finish the kill off. Since it takes a lot of shots to kill a Fighter, the main way is they can easily close a door and heal behind cover. So when a Fighter is pushing you, you just want to either put away weapons and run, or just focus on shooting their legs under their shield. Since it's impossible to fully block every part of your body, you can normally shoot their legs. However, most of the time they will jump and look down, so you can't shoot their legs as easy. If you're really having trouble with them catching you, you can use Crippling Shot and Forceful Shot. Crippling Shot will make them even slower when you hit them in the legs, and Forceful Shot will knock them back. But overall, it can be pretty hard to finish off a kill against a Fighter, and you have to get a lot of good damage, or else you won't be able to stop them from healing. The next matchup up is Ranger. A Ranger vs Ranger matchup is normally just a skill matchup, however, there are some tricks you can do. The main thing is you need to play a corner or play around cover. If you have a cover and the other Ranger doesn't, it makes it much easier to win the fight. You want to prioritize jiggling around the corner to bait a shot, and you can peek further out and go for a shot. However, if the other Ranger is good, he will likely be doing the same thing. So if you're both doing that, you either have to keep doing it until one of you gets damage up by getting a nice shot, or if you want, you can try to be aggressive and push that corner to get damage. Both are good, but one is a bit more risky, since if you don't get instant damage, you need to run away. However, one thing to remember is you can always just run away if you're losing the fight. You can play a pillar or a door and heal up, which is one of Ranger's biggest weaknesses. But you have to be careful, since Ranger's most likely to melee another Ranger compared to if you're a Fighter or Barb. So if you're healing on the other side of a door, they may open the door and just run in, they're going to finish you off. Next up is Wizard. Wizard can be a very scary matchup because of their high damage output and your low MDI. Most of the time though, it comes down to a skill matchup. The best way to avoid damage is to play far from the Wizard, outside of the range of their spells like Zap and Explosion. Then you can make space after getting poke damage. However, most Wizards won't engage if you play far away like this, so sometimes you need to play closer and play a corner and bait spells. However, it can go badly very fast if they get like a Fireball Splash and a Zap on you. So you have to be able to escape fast and heal, or get damage up early enough that won't happen. Next up is Warlock. Warlock can be a pretty good matchup for Ranger. Even though the healing is a bit scary, and you have low MDR, their curses don't hurt that much. So you have high HP, and even if they get a Curse of Pain and a Curse of Sacrifice, that's most of their damage, and it opens them up to taking a lot of shots. So if you can get shots on them while they're playing to try to curse you in the open, since most Warlocks, since they have so much healing, they'll play very aggressive and play in the open, which lets you get easy shots. Then having magic prop pots also helps a lot, since they're very good against Curse of Pain. Then there's another Warlock matchup where you might get against Warlock of Blow of Corruption and Phantomize, and the best way to deal with them is to bait out their Phantomize and close them out in the door. In Phantomize, they're faster than you and you can't hit them at all, so most of the time they'll try to Phantomize on you and cancel and start hitting you. But if you have a door, you can close them out, and once they have no Phantomize, it's much harder for them to gap close. Next up is Cleric. Cleric is normally an easy matchup for Ranger, however there are a few builds that can give you trouble. But the main builds people do are pretty easy to deal with. The one you're most likely to encounter in solos is No Spell Cleric with Smite and Divine Protection. Normally this Cleric will be fast and squishy, except for when they have Divine Protection active, which is only 3 seconds. The best thing you can do is keep distance and bait out their skills. If you get up damage on them and they don't have Smite or Divine Prot, you can also finish them off with melee, since the DPS and tankiness without those skills is not super high. But you gotta make sure they don't get on you with Smite, because they won't be able to get away. The other cleric build is the caster cleric build. A lot of time in solos it will have 5 spells in Judgment or 5 spells in Smite. Normally you just play your distance and they don't have much range other than Holy Strike, so as long as you're far, you can pretty easily kill them. The only main thing to worry about of Cleric is if they're building higher PDR, if a Heater Shield, kind of like a fighter. And they'll play like a fighter with maybe 5 spells in Smite, so then they'll be much more tanky, but as long as you keep distance, since they'll be pretty slow, that's all you need to worry about. Next matchup is Bard. Bard is a very good matchup for Rangers, since they don't have any burst move speed abilities, and it's hard for them to use stuff like Fringe Jiska Axes, because they have no tactical slots. You want to play to kite them out and just shoot under or above their buckler. If you have Purge Shot, it makes the matchup even easier, since you're constantly getting rid of their buffs. The one thing you have to look out for is if they're using drums with the Reinforced Instrument perk. If they get a crossbow shot and then start throwing drums at you, if one hits, it does a lot of damage. Just make sure you have cover or an escape. And if they get a crossbow shot on you, before you get a shot on them, just go heal up and go back to the fight. Next up is Sorcerer. Sorcerer can be a rough matchup, because it has a couple burst DPS combos. However, the main weakness of Sorcerer, especially in solos, they have no consistent damage. They rely on 50-50s with Elemental Bolt and Ice Lightning. What that means is if you're going to strafe out the Elemental Bolt or Ice Lightning, you can go one of 2 directions, and they have to predict which direction you go. So it's a 50-50 on which direction they predict. However, they do have the option to TP onto you with Electric Dash and pull out their melee weapon, which a lot of the time can kill you. Just make sure you keep your distance and get a damage lead, and most of the time you'll be fine. Druid is another hard class of Ranger, since there's no one thing to do that makes it easier. A lot of it is relying on mechanical skill to get damage quickly and like shoot Druids doing their Panther Chicken Jump. The only thing I can say is to have a door ready so you can get away from Panther. You can bait out their dash, and then you'll be able to play more aggressive after that. Another thing you can do is if they have Dream Walk, and they're getting close to you, if you can pop their Dream Walk, you can hop on them with a melee weapon. And as long as you're hugging them, Druid won't be able to transform to a different animal. However, that can be risky. The last matchup here is Rogue. Rogue can be another scary matchup, since a lot of the time you can just die to a Rogue sitting invis on a corner. However, having the tracking perk helps, since you can see footsteps to know if they just moved to the corner, or someone was around there. You can also use Ghost Dust Pouches to throw at corners and check for rogues, since they will knock them out of invis. However, they can be expensive, so they're only really viable of good kits. But if you're going to avoid a rogue's invis, the best thing to do is try to get 1 to 2 shots off while they run at you, and then kill them with short sword. It allows them to be able to hit a shot or 2 on double jump, which should be hard though. But rogues aren't normally super tanky, so if you get up damage, you can 1v1 them with short sword. Worst case, just run and close the door and reset. Next up, I have some tips for playing Rangers solo. The main thing you have to worry about, like I've said before, is doors and pillars, so someone can easily play around the door, and it's really hard to finish them off while they heal. So one thing you can do is just play to go in on someone while they're healing behind a door, so if they're low, you can open the door and try to finish them off with short sword. However, that can be risky, so you have another option of using multi-shot, if you run it, to break the door so you can get shots off. But even though doors are a pretty big counter to the Ranger, it's also your best friend, since most matchups you want to have a door ready to close someone out. If you ever have someone get close range to you, you can always run away from them and close the door. Since it can be so hard to finish off kills in solo sometimes, a lot of time you're just kiting out and looking for a good opportunity, where someone may be fighting someone else, so you can get a third party, or you can catch someone in an open room where they can't get away. A lot of it is just getting in and out of fights fast, and looking for a good situation. And that way it's kind of like Rogue, where most Rogue kind of just vibe around, double jump around, and look for a good spot. However, Ranger does not have as many options to get out of a fight. You can also use Trap Mastery for traps if you're having issues. It lets you close a door and quickly place traps under you, and that will stop someone from being able to push. Or you can just have traps set up that you can jump over and bait someone into. But overall, having success in solos on Ranger relies a lot on just mechanical skill, so you can hit enough shots before someone can get out of the fight and heal. But I would say the best thing to look out for is just to have an escape always, and play to live rather than get a kill. As long as you can live, you'll eventually get a situation where you can get loot out of it. There are also some team comps where Ranger is best in. For the most part, Ranger can work in most comps, especially in duos, where I wouldn't say there's a character in duos that's bad with Ranger. Typically, the best thing you can have is a character that covers your weakness, so like Ranger and Wiz, since Ranger can have a hard time against PDR, Wiz is good against PDR. But overall, any combination works, so you can have like Ranger Fighter, where the Fighter frontlines, or you can have Ranger Rogue, where the Ranger's baiting for the Rogue, or say uh, Ranger Warlock, where you're just playing double DPS and both kiting people out. I don't think any of these comps are bad. I would say probably Ranger Wizard is probably the best comp, or maybe Ranger Sork, but there's no bad duos comp. In trios, it's pretty similar, but you have to be a bit more careful. Typically, just partnering other DPS classes together with Ranger is the best thing to do. So like Ranger Wiz Rogue, Ranger Wiz Sork is extremely strong. Any form of free DPS classes. But Ranger can fit into really any comp. It can fit into like Cleric Ranger Fighter. It can fit into maybe Barb Ranger or Barb Fighter Ranger. However, I would say typically the ranged comps are better, just because currently range is much better than melee. But if you're looking for the best comps, any combination of Ranger and Wiz is just automatically good. With different team comps on Ranger, you also sometimes need to change up your playstyle based on your team comp. The main example of this is if you're, say, playing with a frontline, so you're a Ranger Fighter or Ranger Fighter Barb, you're the main source of DPS, so you may need to play much more aggressive around corners, where you go for a peek to get damage for your team to go in. However, if you're playing, say, Ranger Wiz, you need to make sure you're not both going for damage at the same time. Say a Wiz and a Ranger trying to kill someone through the same doorway, you want to make sure you're not blocking each other, because otherwise you'll die. So a lot of time, if you have more DPS classes, having one of you go for a flank or an off angle is best, because otherwise you get stuck playing the same doorway, and if someone runs at you, a lot of the time you'll get sandwiched and die. And along with this, you need to be careful about shooting your teammates in a fight. So if you have people in front of you, normally the best thing to do is to shoot over their heads, and try to tell your team like to not jump for the most part. A lot of the time, sometimes there's not much you can do though if someone jumps or like walks into a shot. However, you just have to try your best to take good shots. So most of the time, if your teammate goes in melee, I think if you've seen my videos, a lot of time I'm holding a shot for if I'm either waiting for a really good shot or to see if my teammate needs it. So say you have a fighter and he's wanting a barb, instead of instantly trying to shoot and potentially shooting your teammates, I typically hold my shot and either look for a really good shot where I know I'm gonna hit it, or to see if my fighter like needs help. Because if he starts backing out of the fight, I can then shoot the barb safely. But you just gotta be careful of your shots. One thing I do is I play with low move speed on Ranger a lot, and some people ask me how I do it. The main thing is I play duos and trios, so move speed doesn't matter as much, and you have a teammate that can help you out if you're getting ran down. But in general, you want to always have a doorway to go out, so if someone's pushing you with higher move speed, you can just close them the doorway. The reason I normally run less move speed is I've noticed it doesn't really matter. Though most of the times when I'm getting caught by a frontline, like Fighter or Barb, it's because I'm getting spammed by Franny axes or hit by like Achilles, and I wouldn't have been able to survive anyway. So typically your best friend is just using a doorway to get away from someone. And if it's in trios, if they keep chasing you for the doorway, most of the time they're gonna die for it. So I've been over most of this, but next I'm gonna go over stuff to avoid and look out for when playing Ranger. The best stuff to look out for is getting a jump on someone, say they're doing boss or they're standing still looting something. If you can get a quick shot, it forces them to back off. So normally getting a jump on someone and getting a third party is the best thing that can happen, similar for most classes. And then the big stuff to avoid is like having to push through a doorway. Having to push through a doorway where you may get closed off or locked out, it'll be instant death. You also want to avoid like a front line running you down. The main thing you have to look out for is Franny spam. So if they just start throwing Franny axes at you, it can be really hard to get away. Then the other thing you need to be mindful of is your low MDR and sometimes low HP. So if it's a wizard in a corridor or a wizard close range, you need to get out of there, since it's almost impossible to avoid getting hit by a fireball at that range. Other thing I would say is make sure you're not focusing too much on getting headshots. Headshots are good, but it's better off hitting consistent shots for the slow. Especially in solos, if someone's pushing you, you really don't want to go for a headshot very often, because most of the time they're just going to strafe to the opposite side and it's going to whiff. And there's not much you can do about it. So focus on getting out consistent damage over getting like super high damage of headshots. Then you also have pretty low burst damage as Ranger, with your main burst being quick shot, or maybe quick fire. So consistent damage is always better. So the last thing I have here is the best character race to use on Ranger. This, first of all, this pretty much does not matter at all. The difference is like one stat, so just use whichever one you like best. But overall, if you're using low gear, where like you're in Squire gear, it's probably best to have the Nightmare Crocodile, which gives 4 deck space. The other option is when you're more gear is Nightmare Mummy, if you want more weapon damage. Overall, the best one, if you have it, is, let me find it, is the Seawalker. It gives you +1 strength, -1 will. In will barely affects Ranger. The only thing is you lose a bit of MDR. But I'm normally running this one. Frost Skeleton also add weapon damage for move speed. So there's all pretty good options. But for the most part, I would just use what you like, because none of these matter too much. Orc's pretty good too. But I figured I'd go over it for anyone trying to really min-max. Nightmare Seawalker is typically the best. Overall, I think that's everything I could think of covered for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments. You can add me on Discord and DM me about anything. Or I stream most days on my YouTube and my Twitch. You can find in the description. And you can come ask and drop by in there. But I hope you enjoyed, and like and subscribe.